community and economic development in general. So it's always a pleasure for us to host these candidates to make sure that the citizens, our members, and the business community really understands a little bit more about those individuals that have decided to run for public office. Some more information about the Chamber of Commerce. We do not endorse candidates. We're not a political action committee. And on behalf of the Surprise Regional Chamber of Commerce, again, I wanted to thank you. Scott, who just stepped out of the room, Scott Phillips, our chair of the board, volunteer, wonderful. Thank you very much, Scott. Also, Andy will be the official timekeeper. Do you want to say anything, Andy, about the rules? No, we got that covered. Awesome. A couple little quick things here real briefly is if everybody could just take 1 minute and turn off your cell phones. Anybody who has a cell phone that goes off, there'll be a $50 fine imposed, and I, as the moderator, get to pick the charity of my choice, and we also accept cash, credit cards, and checks. Andy promised me a lot of people would laugh at that joke. We did have a random drawing today to decide in what order the candidates would be given questions. Each candidate will have about 2 minutes for their opening statement and then 3 minutes for a closing statement. Questions are specific to the council, district, city, and the region. And candidates will respond with up to 2 minutes per question, and each question in the order will rotate. If time permits, we will accept a limited amount of questions submitted through index cards from those in attendance. And the moderator, that's me, will screen select and ask those questions. So good luck to all the candidates, and thank you for your willingness to serve the public. I'm going to go ahead and grab a seat here, and we'll start. Opening statements. Is it 3 minutes, Andy? 2 minutes for opening statements. We will start with Allison. So why don't you provide us a 2-minute opening statement?
Okay. I'm usually standing up when I talk, so this is weird, but so bear with me a little bit. My name is Allison Allen Cline. I've been called Allie since I've been coaching T-ball for the last 9 years. I am running for the office of City Council for District 2. A little bit about me. I've been in management or leadership positions for more than 40 years. I live here year-round. I have 3 grown and married sons who live out of state, and my husband and best friend is a Vietnam veteran. I have a professional designation in business and bank management from UCLA. I also have a certification from UCLA as a trained facilitator. I retired in 2008 as a vice president and a regional manager for Wells Fargo Bank in business and membership banking. I also worked with the mayor in Glendale when I was still employed in women in business and business-to-business projects. I'm currently the president of Friends of the Surprise Library. So for those of you who have been to the library, the bookstore inside the lobby, which is gratefully allowed to us by the City of Surprise, is a bookstore that supports literacy, libraries, teachers, education programs, reading programs, and since I became president 5 years ago, we've managed to donate and contribute more than $500,000 to the City of Surprise. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you. Next up is Wendell.
Hello, I'm Dr. Wendell Fountain. We live here in Sun City Grand. Love this place. Originally, we came from Florida to Fort Mojave, Arizona. My mother-in-law, father-in-law, and my wife and I all came out to Fort Mojave. We spent a few months there. We had bought some land in Fort Mojave and had intended on building a house, but we didn't. We moved over across the river, across the Colorado, and into the Fort Laughlin. Actually, we were on the Mojave Indian Reservation. And it was terrific. So we built a house there. But you know, all of the business that we did just about was all in Arizona. All the services, everything. In fact, sadly, my mother my father-in-law passed away in Arizona, in the hospital there, across the river from where we were. So we've been doing a lot of things. So we've done. My wife and I have been doing a lot of caretaking over these past 10 years, to be honest with you, quite a bit. But that's okay. Right now, I'm doing my background educationally. I have a BA in psychology, MA in human resources management, and a doctorate in a DBA in business administration. I have run my own business since 1984 as a business consultant, and I have worked with all levels of government and businesses, for that matter, small, medium, large. So I've done all those things, and I'm excited about this District 2 race because I think I'm going to win it. And if I don't, that will be not, I think that's probably not God will, so be it. Thank you very much.
Nancy.
Hi. I want to thank you all for being here tonight. I really appreciate it.
Closer to your face.
Closer?
There you go.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I've never used one, so I apologize. I want to thank everyone for being here, and I want to thank the Chamber for setting this up. It's very nice. I am running because actually my husband, before he passed, up here more?
Yes, right up to your mouth.
Right up here. Good Lord. Before he passed, had asked me to run because he knew he couldn't complete his 4-year term. So in January, he died in December. In January, I ran for the position, and I was honored to get it. I'm very, very lucky. My background is working to solve problems in Fortune 500 companies. I spent 20 years working in management and then changed over to project management, which got me out doing contingency planning for a company that was United States wide, doing any type of project that the president wanted to have done. That I just flew all the time to do all these projects through contingency planning, and I also did contract evaluations, which you take contracts and you break them down and try to get all the systems broken out of them. And I saved $5 million with that one, so I was pretty proud of that. That was one of my highlights. My background also is I raised 2 children alone, so when it comes to managing money, I learned how to, take 2 pennies and make it work. It was a challenge, but it was worth it. The children are fabulous adults now. And I also had a restaurant for 4 or 5 years, which I would love to have had here, which worked much better here. And also, I did wedding planning on this side, plus working for the Fortune 500 companies. Now that I've been in office for 6 months, I have my own things that I'm really excited about, and that's keeping the Luke Air Force Base really close to our heart because they are a great financial benefit to us. The opioid drugs, developing downtown and making it a fun place to be, make it really active, and protect our taxpayers. Okay, stop.
Thank you. This question is some of you may have touched on, but if you could be a little bit more succinct. How long have you lived in Surprise? And specifically some of your work experience and or volunteer experience or public service. What of those skill sets do you think are particularly important that you bring to the table?
Start with me.
I'm sorry, that question starts off with Wendell.
And your question was?
Yeah, real briefly, how long have you lived in Surprise? What is your record of service or volunteering in the city?
Thank you very much. We have officially been in the city of Surprise for 1 year. We have been in and around Surprise since 2013. We spent 2 months here, rented a house in 2014 to make sure that this was going to be our final home of record. And it is, and we love this place. As far as my other work, when I was in Florida, as an example, I served on a financial board, a credit union, and it was a large one for credit unions. Now we have like 610,000 members, and when I left it, we were at 3.6 billion in assets, and now they have gone past 7 billion. So they're doing really well, and we did a lot of strategic planning. That was my thing. And they're still following pretty much what we set out to do back then. And of course, I'm involved in about everything around here, I think. We are very busy, but since I've gotten involved with this election business, I haven't had time to enjoy the place. It's too busy.
Allison.
Well, this December, I will have been, I'm sorry, I'm not used to having a microphone because you guys can probably hear me back. So. As of this December, I've been here in Surprise. As of December, it will be 16 years. I live here year-round, as I mentioned before. A while back, I had to try to figure out how many hours I volunteer for the city of Surprise and surrounds. So this is a low estimate because I don't keep track of my volunteer hours very well. I volunteer about 18,000 hours over the last 10 years in different areas. I work with the City of Surprise, Parks and Recs as a coach with my husband. Also served on the Disabled Advisory Board for the City of Surprise. I was also on the executive board for the Sun Health Foundation and worked with them all the way through the merger with Banner Roswell. I was also part of and ran the Surprise Relay for Life for 5 years. We made it the most successful Relay for Life and one of the most fun things that we had a chance to do. Raised $70,000 each year that I was the chair. So we contributed that to a wonderful charity, the Cancer Society. I talked a little bit about my background. I've been in management, strategic planning, project planning, as far as mergers and acquisitions, something that doesn't happen too much here anymore, but when a bank takes over another bank, they have to get a team together to go in and pick up the pieces and put those banks together, so that was something that I worked on for a number of years. So I have a lot of management and strategic planning experience.
Thank you. Question number 3, oh, I'm sorry, Nancy.
I've lived here 16 years. Right in my mouth. I've lived here 16 years. Most of the time I was working because I had to support myself. I was a single woman here, and then I met my husband, Jim Hayden, and he was our previous councilman. And I worked up until the point where my heart started failing me, and I spent 4 or 5 years home and dead with heart issues. So once I recovered, he ran for office, and then now I've become very active with him and what he's doing. But I never had the privilege of having the time to do more charity work, and so I had to support myself.
Thank you. Now, question number 3. Surprises municipal election are officially nonpartisan. What are your core values and how will they shape your policy making during your term if elected? One more time. Surprises municipal elections are officially nonpartisan. What are your core values and how will they shape your policy making during your term if elected? That's Nancy.
Okay. I believe integrity is everything. I think it's the foundation that everyone must. Still can't hear me? Closer? Okay, is that better? Okay. Should I do it this way? Okay. Forget the question. I'm so sorry.
Oh, sure. Surprises municipal election are officially nonpartisan. What are your core values? How will they shape your policy making during your term if elected?
So I believe integrity is everything. It is the foundation of our lives. If we are not honest and true to what we believe in, what we see is needed in our cities, then we shouldn't be there. I believe that I bring that to the city. I want the city to grow. I want to be part of it. I want so much to find success in the city. It's just a matter of being strong on who I am. I make sure I read everything, understand everything before I ever do a vote. I think it's being totally involved in your city, totally understanding what each aspect of each project is about, and it's strong integrity.
Thank you. Allison.
Okay, well, my core values, similar to what Nancy said,
our honesty. I'm one of those people that even when it's bad news, people who work with me know that they'll get the truth, whether they want to hear it or not. I completely am community involvement. I've been part of that as part of my job or part of my free time, depending on whatever I had to do. And collaboration. I think bringing people together and getting input from different sources. Sometimes an idea is there and you just don't see it because you've been doing the same thing for the same amount of time, and some fresh idea comes in and you can really put that fresh idea to work. So I have skills of bringing people together to accomplish difficult tasks. And I think those, if we have a difficult decision or a difficult task, reaching out to the people around me and this community particularly to get their input as to what it is that they feel impacts them would be something that is a strength of mine.
Thank you. Wendell.
My core values basically are ethics, morality, and transparency. I think that everything that we should do in government, everyone should be aware of what we're doing and why we're doing it. So I feel like that those particular core values have served me well over the years. In teaching graduate school, I've taught a lot of courses in business ethics and ethics in general, even design courses in ethics. So I feel very strongly that those are my guiding principles. I just feel like that all voters, all citizens should know what's going on at all times if at all possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 4. Question number 4. You have 2 strong and uniquely qualified opponents. What distinguishes you from your competition? We'll start with Allison.
Okay, so the first thing that separates me from Nancy or Wendell is I have a broken leg, which is why I'm here with water. I was run over while driving and by someone who didn't go through a red light, so that's why I have my water here. So that makes me different from them. I think one of the other things that I have that's a little bit different is I do have a long time of being involved with the city government. I have a long history of being involved in the business community. I've been with a Chamber of Commerce, not just the one here, but with the Chamber of Commerce here, the one in Glendale, and then before I moved to Arizona, I was also one of the people at the Chamber of Commerce in North Hollywood that worked with businesses that needed to get loans and human development. So working with business to business, I have a very strong business bringing background, and I think that perhaps my ability to talk business to business would bring other businesses and help with the facilitate discussions that we need to have about bringing businesses that can then support our community. So that's probably a little bit of my differences.
Wendell.
I think that what separates us is that I feel like I have a vast more amount of experience, knowledge, and I've done all this stuff for so many years. I'm a business strategist. I've helped many companies, many organizations all around the country. I've worked with local governments, state governments, federal government. I've done all these things over all these years, and I'd like to spend a good part of the last 10 years that hopefully I'll have more than that, of my life making a contribution here. This is our final home of record, as I said, and we want to make a significant difference, and I do see challenges ahead, but I think I'm prepared for it. Thank you.
Nancy.
I look at this very different. I'm sorry. I got it. I look at this very different. I am not running against these people. I'm running for a position that I want. I don't need to say what I think I'm better or worse at what they're doing. I'm trying to run for my position that I really want to do, that I feel that I have the business background to do, that I spent 20, 30 years working on. I feel as taking my business knowledge and putting it into the city, I can do great things, and I really look forward to doing that. But I do not see it as a comparison to them. I'm really running this just to run for a position.
Thank you. Question number 5. The average age in Surprise is 38. Your district is heavily populated by senior citizens and retirees. What will you do, if elected, to bring these two groups together to unify the city? Wendell.
Well, I think the age differences are obvious, but nevertheless, I don't see any reason why we can't work with each other. I don't see what the problem would be with if I'm on the city council, I'm as concerned about a family of 4, and the average age is, as you say, 38 years old. I'm just as concerned about them as I am about people of my own age group, in which I am 74. So I am very concerned about all of that. I don't see any problem with bringing people together. I don't see why. I mean, we're all human beings. We all have the same thing in common. We want to get along, live, and enjoy Surprise because it's a great city, and it can be even greater. So I don't see any problem with bringing people together at all. Thanks.
Nancy. The average age in Surprise is 38. Your district is heavily populated by senior citizens and retirees. What will you do, if elected, to bring these two groups together to unify the city?
I didn't know that there was actually a break with people. I find that a lot of families work closely with a lot of the seniors. I know that seniors have their own requirements that they would like to pay or not pay, like in Arizona Traditions. They really don't want to have to pay for our roads because they already pay for those roads. So there are little issues that pop up in every group that are specific to their needs. But as for families, I mean, we have to keep families in. We have to have recreation for them. We have to keep that vital, our city vital, very active for them. And I think we can all work together because most of my senior groups, as you put it, are very active, high-energy people that are out there living their lives full and being very positive and things. So I don't think there's a real break. I think it's just getting them to talk to each other.
Allison.
Well, you know, every individual community has things that are important to them, but I actually had an experience where I was able to do exactly what you're talking about. It took communication, it took community outreach, and it took a lot of hard work. But when I ran the Surprise Relay for Life, we had over 3,500 people who attended. We had over 400 student volunteers. We had seniors, we had children, we had family members who all came together and helped us raise $70,000. So I think what might be appropriate was to find ways, either working with the city council members, with the tourism department, with our community outreach farmers, to have events that bring people together all at one time and help us break down those little barriers where people don't actually think about it. Another way that I've managed to do that in the last 3 years, although it might be 4 because I've been doing some of the stuff with friends for a long time, is we work with the Dice Art School, for the Culinary Arts School. And those are young people in their 16s and 17s, and they have dinner for the Friends of the Surprise Library. And our friend members' average age is in the 70s. So by getting those two groups together, where our seniors can see what our young people can do and perform, brought both of those groups closer together over the last 3 years. So it just takes a little bit of work.
Thank you. Nancy, this is our next round of questions. You'll be the first one to answer. At the federal level, cutting corporate and personal tax, along with removing burdensome regulations, have unchained the economy. What are your thoughts on taxes and regulations within Surprise?
My dream is to keep keep the taxes down as much as possible. To do that, we have to bring in larger businesses, more companies where we have 200 to 400 employees, better wage processes so our people can stay in the city. And I think with that, we can keep from having to raise any taxes. And I think that's all that I work for, is that the tax base never goes up. Try and keep it down, but we need to get more companies to come in here so we can get revenue from them. That's what I would do.
Allison.
Corporate taxes and personal taxes, I guess if you think in the global sense, no one ever wants to pay taxes. But we also want to have community parks. We want to have our Surprise Training Center. So whether we use bonds as a means of financing what the community wants to do, or whether we look at other means of bringing in, as Nancy said, bigger businesses, but we may need to go for a more medium-sized business for the next 5 years. We want to have things that provide jobs and are intermediate in growth to the community. So we need to have a blend of bigger businesses and smaller businesses, and also some of our small business people may need some assistance in making our economy continue to grow. As far as legislation, I have to admit I'm not an expert on city legislation as far as taxes, but I can tell you that the difference between the Surprise tax base and the Scottsdale tax base is less than 1%. The difference between the income that they have and the income that we have from a sales tax standpoint is that they have 100,000 more people than we do. So we need to grow our tax base and our sales tax base predominantly more than our housing tax base or our property tax base. Thank you.
Wendell.
This is one of my favorite subjects that I don't like, taxes. I feel like that the city of Surprise needs to take a look at what level of taxation we are at, and as far and regulations as well, by the way, and where they can be relaxed, we should do that. I think that the idea of having other business come into our community is the best way to go, because we need to have someone help us offset the taxes that we're paying right now. As I see it, taxes are a necessity, just like some spending. But I'm a fiscal conservative, and I do believe that we need to do that in the most careful and frugal way that we can. I don't like the idea of homeowners continuously having to bear the brunt of the burden of taxes. So that's essentially the way I see taxation. But I think our city, our leaders should take a look at, are there taxes that we can relax, are there regulations that we can relax? Because we want business to continue to chug along. It's doing great right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 7. In an Arizona Republic article titled, "With Little Input, Surprise Leaders OK Big Salary Boost for Mayor Council," written by Jane Fifield, made reference to a 6-0 vote by Surprise City Council to give an estimated 35% increase to the mayor's salary and a 32% raise for other council members. This increase would be furthered without additional council action every other year. What are your thoughts on this? Allison, can you start?
Okay, well, I actually went in and did the math on this particular issue when it came up a few weeks ago. Percentages of a small number look bigger than a percentage of a large number. So one of the things I looked into was the city council budget and salary range. And the lowest paid, non-exempt person who works for the city of Surprise makes more than $27,000 a year, which is what they would propose that the new city council members be paid for a part-time person. And part-time as a state issue is anything over 20 hours but less than 37. So even though that there's no required number of hours that a city council person works, I know many of our city council people who are currently working spend more than
30 hours, 35 hours, 40 hours a week, putting in their time, and they also don't get overtime. So, in my opinion, I think the real issue was that there wasn't any public input on this issue. It isn't how much they're being paid, because technically they'll still be the lowest paid people in the city, but it's that there wasn't public input to give them the okay to go forth with that.
Wendell.
My position is clear on this. I addressed the council on the 19th of June, and I told them that I thought it was reprehensible. There was no need to do this, and that they could fix it. I recommended that they go into an executive session and rescind. I think it's absurd. I served for 25 years in an elected volunteer position, and we didn't get paid one dime. This is not the only reason that we should be wanting to be on the council for money. Good grief. I mean, that's not what I came here to do. And so I'm very disturbed with that. And if I had anything to do with it, I'd rescind it tonight, right now. Because I think it's a terrible thing. And the way it was done was very poorly done. And I do wish the council would have taken my advice, but obviously they didn't.
Nancy.
Well, first of all, I was in England at the time, so I didn't vote on it at all. Can you hear me now? I hope. Sorry. I was in England at the time. The whole logic that I found about it, because I talked to people when I came back, was that we are not attracting the youth of our cities to come and run for office because they can't afford to live on $20,000. They can't do the hours that need to be put in and work a job. So it started off with we were trying to get more money for the council to try and, you know, just get some younger people. I would love to see some 20 and 30 years old council people. I think it would be wonderful. And that's where I thought it started, and that's how I perceived it. But that's why we were doing it, was to help get more youth and more people involved in our community and being on our council, getting the younger people. And they honestly have to make money to take care of their families and things like that. That's one of the reasons John Williams had to resign, was he couldn't do the hours he needed to do. He had to work full time, and that was sad because he was excellent in our community. So it's just to try and get more people to run.
Thank you. Question number 8. Branding and marketing are essential tools for success in business. Define the current image or character for Surprise and where you would like to see it end up in your first term. Wendell.
Well, I think I would like to see some downtown development really happen. I've read about it, I've studied it now, and for 12 years nothing has happened of significance. And I'd like to see that happen during my term. I think this term is going to be for 2 years. And I believe in 2 years I can make a difference. I believe I can get somebody off the dime and get something done, because it's time to act, not talk. I've heard enough talk from everybody on the council and others in the community. So I think things like that need to be done, and I know how to do it. I mean, just let me work on it. I guarantee I can get it done. Thank you.
Allison.
Well, currently, when you talk about how we're branded, we're one of the safest cities in the United States. We're one of the safest cities in Arizona. We're a destination for spring training. We're a destination for the events that happen with our tennis tournaments. So what I would like to see us take as an add-on to those two things is being one of the best education cities in the world, where the city council and the community comes together to support education. I think if we work on building an educated workforce, that will give us the skilled workers that can then work in the businesses close to home, and that would help drive the economy. So I'd like to see us marketed as one of the best places for education in Arizona.
Thank you. Question number 9. There's currently a clear... Oh, Nancy, I'm sorry.
Leaving me out here.
I'm
Again. Ask the question again.
Sure. Branding and marketing are essential tools for success in business. Define the current image or character for Surprise and where you would like to see it end up in your first term.
Okay, so what's very important to me is that we keep building, like we have the baseball going on, where people come in 1 month, we're just full of people. I'd like us to get the pickleball to continue to grow and to have their groups come in, and we need to build more hotels and restaurants, which comes down to downtown. And one of the big issues with downtown is, as of 3 years ago, we couldn't build anything on the property because it had a restriction on it that nothing could stay late or be there at night, because it was part of Luke Air Force Base property that Phoenix was selling to us. So now we have a process where we can build houses and apartments and things like that, but we couldn't even get that started until after about 3 years ago. So that's one of the issues. But I want us to have more activities. I want us to have the downtown that's, more, really tight housing, and have it be walkways so that when people come to visit us, they stay in our community, they play in our community. Where we have a downtown where there's places for them to eat that are maybe a little different and more like families and unique. And we are able to have apartments that are built on top of the stores underneath, and they can rent them and be totally involved in our downtown area. I hope we bring in more sports. I think sports would be excellent in our community. I would also like us to be considered one of the best school districts. I also think Ottawa University has brought so much to us, and I think they're a great asset to us, which means our kids will be able to go to school there and not have to go outside the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 9. There is currently a split on City Council as to the development of the acreage around City Hall. What are your thoughts concerning this key issue in Surprise? We'll start off with Nancy.
You're telling me there's a split?
Yes.
Of the council? No, I didn't know that. I think all of us want to grow our city. All of us want to grow downtown. The people who own the property, we are working with them right now, and we're working on a plan to see what they want to develop, and I thought the meetings were going really well, from what I've been told, and that they are coming up with a city plan for us to review and go forward. That's what I've heard at City Hall. So I didn't know there was a big split in the City Hall. Thank you.
Allison.
Could you repeat that question? I'm sorry.
There's currently a split on City Council as to the development of the acreage around City Hall. What are your thoughts concerning this key issue in Surprise?
I think the part of the reason that we haven't come together is because our community is so varied. We have our senior communities that are looking for more upscale things, and we have our family communities who maybe are looking for more playful things where they could have City Hall be more involved. I think having, although it's been said that maybe we've had too much conversation, I think it is it would be well put for us to have more input from the community so that we can really go forth with what would be not only attractive and a great place to visit and hang out, but it would also be financially viable. One of the issues that we have in this community is part of our spenders, the people who have money in our community, and those are the people in this district, predominantly, many of them go away for many months out of the year. So businesses who are doing business in our community need to be viable all 12 months out of the year and need to be able to be supported by that community. So we could put in a fancy place and have people not visit it 6 months out of the year and it would go out of business. So from a business-minded person, I think we need to have
more than one thing. And it would be great if we put together a plan that shows the streets and the avenues and the trees and the areas that we want to have, and then within those areas we could start developing a program that would bring it all together.
Thank you. Wendell?
I believe you turned it, there's a split in the city council regarding how to get this thing moving. I don't know whether it's a split. I don't know whether there's one or two individuals that are preventing this progress or not. I have been to a couple of these meetings, and it appeared to me that that might be the case. It might not be, let us say, an even split. But this is total nonsense. We have to get the downtown area built, and things need to happen. And I believe I can make a difference there. It's amazing that we can't even attract one upscale hotel or one upscale restaurant. I know this is not easy. I'm not saying any of this is easy, but I'm just amazed that this is being stumbled around on and it's not being taken care of. This should be taken care of. I mean, you know, we have been in business since 1960, so the city ought to be growing and much better in a different way. I mean, just numbers is not the answer. Just having a lot of people. We have to have an infrastructure. We have to have things that people are interested in. And that will help us grow downtown, because I think that is sort of key to this whole thing. We want a downtown, let's make it happen. And I believe we can. And I want to help that happen. I know I can do it if given the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 10. If elected, what policies would you champion in order to bring a skilled, educated workforce to Surprise, which is crucial to building a vibrant and stable community? Allison.
Okay, well, this is my favorite topic. I think education is the #1 source to building a skilled workforce. For the last 9 years, I've been working with Dysart with their CTE program. Now we have Westmec here that can provide sources. I think we need to have our economic development people from the city and our education people get together to find out what is it that businesses want. What I hear from attending the Citizens Academy recently was that the perception of Surprise is we don't have the right kind of skilled workers today to fill the jobs of today. And we haven't even thought about the jobs of tomorrow that we don't even know are going to exist at this point. So whether we expand our educational process into STEM and computers and technology, or whether we look for more plumbers and electricians and drywall hangers, it doesn't really matter, because there's more than one kind of business out there. But in order to do that, I think one of the skills that I do have, and one of the areas that I would champion would either be business, working with the Chamber of Commerce, or would be working with the school systems in the community in order to make those two things come together so that we could actually find a solution for our skilled workers that are needed in this community.
Thank you. Wendell.
Well, this is one that's very interesting to me. I have been in the teaching business for almost 35 years now, at least at the graduate level, and I understand Ottawa is doing a really fine job. In fact, I think I might even be going to do some teaching for them. I'm currently teaching for Grand Canyon University. I'm teaching courses in leadership and organizational behavior. So I do know what I'm doing. What I'm really happy about is the way the city has come along with Westmec. I think that Westmec thing is excellent because, look, not everybody needs a college degree despite what some people think. We need people that are plumbers, electricians, machinists. We need people who can do things other than just like me have a degree in psychology. What are you going to do with that? You know, so that kind of a thing. But, you know, seriously, I feel very strongly that we are beginning to position ourselves pretty well. And I think if we put some real effort into this, it's going to grow and grow, I'd say rather rapidly. I know Ottawa is growing very quickly now. So, and like I said, I'll probably even do a few courses over there. I don't know. They have asked me about it, and I'm in the process, but we'll see. But I think this is necessary. If you have an educational system that's working, that will attract people. But where there is nothing, that will not attract them. So we have to have this, because I don't think everybody wants to go to Phoenix, too far.
Nancy?
Yes. Well, I think West Mac is a great college because it gives people jobs that for people who don't want to go to college, so that's excellent. I think Ottawa, you can go to take classes there to learn about the job skills you want to future for yourself. I also think a lot of companies, we can get the bigger companies to come in, that like what I worked in, they have classes and they teach you how to do your job. I think that would be fascinating to have come in because they make sure their people understand how to do each of their processes. And that's why I keep pushing, let's get some bigger companies in who can not only get higher wages on them, but also they would train to suit the needs of their jobs that they have. So I think that's really important for us.
Thank you. Question number 11. Before I start that, Mary, can you give me the index cards with the questions, please? Question number 11. The next 20 years belong to the West Valley. Regionalism demands that municipalities work together irrespective of city boundaries. If elected, how will you work with local, regional, county, state, and national organizations to achieve common goals and advance the West Valley interests? And that will be answered by Wendell first.
You have to have a very strong cadre of liaison people who are willing to work with the local government, the state government, and the federal government. You can't do it without having a formal system. So it would be my suggestion that we would have a formal system that connects to each different level of government, whether it's local, state, and or federal. I think you have to have something special here. You can't just do it by happenstance. This has to be well planned, but I think that can be done. But I would suggest a liaison approach. Thank you.
Nancy.
Okay, right now we have one of our secretaries actually, or she isn't a secretary, she's an executive secretary type. And she's been doing all the liaisons with the government and with all of the legislature that is going on right now. And then she gives us information as to what's going on, which helps us immensely. Plus we have another person who's doing that also. So that's an advantage for us. I think that, could you say the question again for me? I always get lost when we haven't heard it for a while. Sorry.
The next 20 years belong to the West Valley. Regionalism demands that municipalities work together irrespective of city boundaries. If elected, how will you work with local, regional, county, state, and national organizations to achieve common goals and advance the West Valley interests?
So right now I'm working with MAP, which is discussing the opioid issues, and we're trying to do a valley-wide process and to help develop how we're going to help people who are on drugs. We also, I work close with Luke Air Force Base to keep information going back and forth with them so that we can grow their needs as well as our needs. I think we just have to find little niches that we can get into because we have a lot of meetings where all cities get together and discuss process and procedures that they're having issues in, and then we share our needs and what we're doing. Even to the homeless, we have different cities getting together to try and help the homeless and where they will live and how they will live and how we can help them and bathe them and take care of them. So there's a lot going on right now where we are involved with a lot of cities to try to develop great skills that will help everybody.
Thank you. I just need a couple of seconds here, and I'm going to start reading these questions here. And everyone, oh, Allison, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's like juggling balls over here, keeping little checks on everything in the question. Sorry.
That's all right. That's okay. We do have 3 organizations right now that work on an Arizona statewide basis. We have the Arizona League of Cities, which is an organization that brings people together to talk about things on a statewide basis. A microcosm of that would be a West Side group of cities that could get together. We do have MEG, and there's another group called the Town Hall that gets people together. I think the Chamber of Commerce in this way could also be a big player. Currently, this Chamber of Commerce meets with El Mirage, Youngtown, and the City of Surprise. And we have neighbors that participate in other chambers of commerce, Glendale, Peoria. They have a mayor's group that gets together, but since we're simply talking at the city council level and what I would do if I was elected, it's something that I've been able to do with our Read on Greater Surprise initiative, which is to get the towns and communities and the city councils and the mayors and the senators and the other legislators who are here involved in a project and get them all working together. So you actually have to come together as a group. I'd be more than willing to do it, and meet and find those areas that we have as a common issue and bring together those issues that need to be addressed, whether it's having a meeting of multiple chambers of commerce, a business-to-business program, and that's one of the strengths that I have that I could use to bring those issues together, working with those different cities and communities.
Thank you. This next set of questions are from the index cards, and you'll have 2 minutes each to respond. I will try to summarize them to give a little higher level perspective. One card here talks about Bell Road traffic is really bad. Can anything be done? I think the question here is around transportation, infrastructure in our city, and your thoughts on that overall. So who would like to go first on that? Wendell?
Sure. Well, Bell Road is a mess, and it's been that way since the first time we came here in 2013. Nothing has really changed except it's gotten worse. And part of it, as I see it, even though it has solved one problem, it has created another, which is that Bell Road hump that is unique in the United States. At least that's what I heard at City Council. I guess that's the case. But we might end up having to widen roads because, I mean, that road is so busy, so very busy artery here, and I don't know, but things like that we're going to have to look at because Bell Road is a challenge. Well, Grand is a challenge, actually. I mean, like when I go to Phoenix to Grand Canyon University, there are 26 lights between here and, well, actually a total of 33 to get to the campus. But most of them are all on Grand. But no, we're going to have to do something with Bell because it is really congested. I mean, it's not that way 24/7, but boy, I'll tell you, in the mornings and evenings, it gets pretty rugged. So I think we're probably going to have to look at things like that. Actually widening roads. I don't know. I mean, the people are here. We have to build an infrastructure so that people can move around. So that's my thinking about it. Thank you.
Nancy.
Bell Road is very, very busy. The problem I find is that a lot of people speed, a lot of people cut in and out, which for some people who need to drive and pay attention, sometimes it throws it off. Some of the accidents we've had have been terrible because it's just someone not paying attention or making a turn, not noticing a car is coming. I mean, there's so many reasons that they're having trouble on that road. The biggest issue, it's the main thoroughfare to go all the way through and go to Arrowhead and keep going, so it's highly used because people work out there. I was hoping that we would put some type of, there is an expressway that we have that isn't complete yet, that I hope will be complete, and maybe people will be able to use that and not go on Bell, but it hasn't been finished yet. So it's just another issue. I do think the police are out there, they're trying to get people to slow down, and we're having a bad issue with that. And I think that a lot of car accidents are caused just because people aren't noticing what's going on. So it's a multitude of issues besides the road size.
Thank you. Allison.
Well, Wendell is correct in that our roads aren't really built for public transportation.
We have too many roads that go around in circles and cut in and out, and we really don't have any way for buses to pull over onto the side. If we had buses, that would make it worse. So let's not do that. I think one of the things that the City Council just put in place was this new, they call it AI, and it has to do with our lights are now set so that people can actually get across town without having to stop at all those lights. And it goes from 114th Street all the way to Cline. Now this is a very small part of Bell Road at this point. But I think as we bring in businesses and people working here, that will be part of the solution, and making use of ways to get to our business areas by using the 303 and using other avenues of getting around town. We really do need more east-west access, and so that would be something that I think would be a multi-city beneficial program. And you'd have to work with ADOT, you'd have to work with MEG, and you have to work with each individual city so that the benefit, whether it's to Youngtown or to Wickenburg, to say we can still get across town, but it would benefit all the cities involved. And I think that would be the first place that if I was elected, I would want to start to help that issue.
Thank you. This next question, someone wrote there, a senior who doesn't drive, can the city help me get to the food stores, drug stores, doctor's appointments? I think this speaks to some maybe general transportation, special populations, special needs, particularly in the transportation area. Nancy, can you start off with that?
We have in our city a transportation group that come out for people who can't drive, who need to get to meetings or doctors or anything. We have that. I don't have the phone number with me, but there is a group that does that service for us. People who are handicapped, we have that. I know it doesn't work too well sometimes for our councilman over here, but we do have a service that will come for handicapped people, and they'll take you away. There's also Uber out now, and Uber, I've been using Uber, and it's really been wonderful. It's gotten me out of town. But the services that we push are the services that only cost you maybe $2 or $3, so it saves on your budget because most of us don't have a lot of extra change.
Thank you. Allison.
Well, the organization that we contracted with to do our dial-a-ride program, when it took over the dial-a-ride that we had here, is based out of Phoenix. I think it would be beneficial for the city to have a company that was, first of all, based on the west side as opposed to the east side, to assist people who need help with transportation. We do have a nonprofit organization that's trying to fill the gap with Northwest Valley Connect, and they do a great job, but they're a nonprofit organization, so they don't have the same kind of resources. So I think we should look to have a company that's based on the west side that can serve the needs of the west side and that can support that. I think what happened is we found out that the needs for our seniors and our disabled persons, and some people who only have one car, that just don't have enough access to the community. So we need to have something out here, whether it's individual taxi licenses like they have in New York, which is like Uber and Lyft, but it's an organized company that we could use as a business, which would bring jobs, it would bring business, and it would support our senior and our transportation community. So I'd like to look into those kinds of options here on the west side.
Thank you. Wendell.
This particular issue is one that I found as I've been going around and talking with our citizens is very disturbing. I met a lady that was 88 years old here a couple months back, and she has macular degeneration, so she can't drive. She tells me that the only way she can really get around, she has to call her daughter in Phoenix and have her come and take her to her doctor's appointments, etc. So I don't know, but I believe if a little town like Laughlin, Nevada, which has 7,000 people in it, can have some kind of busing, it's a small busing system to take people around, I can't see why we can't have that here. I mean, that's pretty simplistic. I mean, I know it's nice to talk about the bright and shiny objects like, well, let's have light rail and all that. Well, that's all good, no problem with that, and all these driverless vehicles, all that's good, that's fine. But first, we need to have fundamentals. People need things that they don't have. And I believe that we as a city should be able to do it. And that would be one of my goals. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 2 more audience questions, and then we're going to go to the 3-minute close, just to let you guys know where we're at. This question is, again, for all 3 of you, of course. What is the #1 project for Surprise on the 5-year plan? Allison.
Are we talking about the city council plan or the #1 community project plan? I think the city council plan has a number of projects. The #1 project on the city council plan is transportation right now. That's why they're doing the survey. That's why they're asking people for other information. And that may tie in with what people are asking about their individual transportation. So to answer it as if that's what they're asking would be that's the #1 project on the city council plan.
Wendell.
I'm not exactly sure of the nature of the question. However, as I understand it, the city has a master plan, and that is probably the most important thing that they talk about, is trying to develop downtown, and that's part of the master plan. I don't know if the things that Allison just mentioned, if it pertains to that or not, but I do know that downtown development is kind of #1 priority around here. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy?
First of all, we don't have the master plan yet. We have met with the builders and they are getting a master plan for us for downtown. That's what we're waiting on now. I do feel that this bus idea is, they've done a lot of work on it, and I think it would be fabulous if we could have some type of busing. The problem that occurs, of course, is that if the bus is on the corner, say going into Sun City Grand, how do you get from your home to that bus? And that's the big issue that I can't get my arms around it. So we need to have some type of service that can help them get to the destination of the bus so they can get to where they need to go. Because a lot of these people, even if they get on the bus, wherever they have to get off, they might not be able to walk. They might be too old to, they're not crippled or anything. They just can't make the long walk to the front door of a doctor's office. Maybe that's their issue. So there's a lot more to it, but I think doing the bus, trying to do the buses and trying to figure out how to help those that are literally housebound and get them moving are 2 different issues, but the same. You know, we're trying to work it so that we can help them all. And I think downtown, I think definitely we want to get downtown built and figure out how to do it, but we're still waiting for that master plan.
Thank you. This will be the last audience question. If elected, what can you do to help the less fortunate residents of the city? Wendell?
Well, less fortunate residents of the city, I'm not sure how we would define that. I just know that we have a lot of less fortunate citizens right here in Sun City Grand. At least what I've found going around and talking with individuals, they can't do what they need to do. I don't know whether they're making reference to homeless or what, but if we're talking about homeless, I think right now the city is doing an awful lot in that regard. In fact, I remember in 2014, there were no homeless people here. Then all of a sudden, by 2017, it went up to 39. That usually happens when you advertise you're ready to serve the homeless. They come from different places. So I'm not so sure, but I do believe that we have good churches and other types of organizations here that help people, and we need to encourage that. I would encourage that as a council member. But let's get out there and help people who need it. And other than that, I'm not exactly positive about the nature of the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy?
So if we're talking about the homeless, all I can say is Councilman Ken Rimley has done an exceptional amount of work on helping them and figuring out what their needs are. We are going to be developing a community center out near in Old Town that's going to have 100 apartments that are going to be low-income apartments. And also, they're sort of saying that they're going to keep a couple of them so that if a homeless person is ready to start his life getting back into society, they can start there and work their way up. And it's just a beginning place for them to work and learn more about themselves. And they will have at this place a room that has little offices in it, and every organization that can help them will be there to help them. If it's clothing they need, if it's food they need, if it's transportation, they will do everything they can. Plus in this center, it's going to have a room that's going to have classrooms in it so that when these people, most people who are in low income are both working, so the children, when they get out of school, they can come there and they can do their homework there and they can snack there. It's really a beautiful way to get people helped and get them back into society, and it's all, Ken Rimley, he's done a fabulous job on that. So I think that's really quite important. I think the seniors, some of them, they don't have a lot, they're just barely surviving. We're trying to help them also. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I guess that means me, huh? We have an organization now in our Health and Human Services group that's in the old City Hall location, and Seth Dyson runs that. We do have areas that work on rehabilitating people's homes that need to be redone. We have a group in there that works with helping people get jobs. We have the Beehive work area to help small businesses get started. But I think if you're asking what personally we as council people can do about this, is to be aware of not just one pocket of area that we have in our city has people who are less fortunate than probably everybody in this room. We have single moms, we have parents, children living with grandparents. So working with the nonprofit organizations that are here in town and the churches and the schools, it takes it takes a village to raise people, working with other organizations to help provide the services that are needed. I think we have a great start with that with Seth's organization and with Councilman Remley's input when he went off to see what's being done in other areas. It's not just homeless. We have people living in poverty, and this may be a big surprise to people in this room, but there are children living in poverty in the city of Surprise. So getting that information from the organizations that have it, and then working together as a group, and if you need one person to be the leader of that group to bring those groups together, I'm more than happy to do that.
Thank you. This next part will be the 3-minute close, and we're going to go in the reverse order where we did the opening statements. So we'll start with Nancy.
Okay. I want to thank you again for being here. I want to thank you again for being here. I really appreciate the time that you've put into this. One thing I want to say is, even though I have a political job, I'm not a politician. I'm just a mother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother. I care about my city. I want it to grow. I feel with my background being in corporate America. Pardon me?
Having a hard time hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Closer? There we go. I don't think I'll ever get used to this. I feel, lost my whole train of thought, thank you. I feel that with my background in corporate America and all the projects that I did and all the money savings that I worked so hard on, I feel I have a lot to offer. I feel I have diverse knowledge, and I think I can make the city better. And I appreciate your vote if you are willing to give it to me, and I thank you all for being here. Thank you.
Wendell.
Yes, I too appreciate all of you coming out. This is, I understand you have a lot of other things you can do in life other than come out and listen to a bunch of people trying to get an elective office. But I just feel like that I can make a difference if you give me a chance. I can't do it unless you give me that opportunity. There's no way I can get elected on my own. It takes people. It takes their votes. I'm a self-funding person. I haven't taken a nickel from anybody because I don't want to. I don't want to be beholden to anyone. I believe this is the best way to go, and as long as I can do it that way, that's what I intend to do. But I will certainly give you my very best. I have worked so many different places. I've worked for large corporations like AT&T, the federal government and the Department of Defense. I've worked for the military for 15 years on an animal staff a lot of the time. I've done all kinds of things. And I've worked a lot, 25 years as I mentioned to you earlier, as an elected volunteer for a credit union called ViStar Credit Union in North Florida. I know what I'm doing. I'm a business strategist, but I need your vote. If you don't give me your vote, you'll never find out if I can do anything or not. I say, give me a shot, and you'll see. And I promise you this, if you do vote for me, you will never regret it. None of you. You will never regret voting for me. Thank you. God bless you all, and have a good night.
Well, I guess I've been a part of this community since 2002. And my 18,000 hours of volunteer time would tell you that I'm more than willing to work, and I'm not working for the money, for the things that are important to this city, that make this city what it is now, and I'll continue to work hard. I think that's an example of my dedication to the issues that are important. My background in business management, in business development, in collaboration, in communication. If you have a question